Welcome to Kung Fu Havoc number 2. This is part 3 of racial tolerance. Okay, so as I was saying, if we all took a lot of stereotypes out, if we all understood other people's cultures, we probably would be more racially tolerant to some of the things that are said. Alright, the world, not just America, but the world has been drenched in war since the dawn of time. Alright, let's get that 1,000% straight. The world has been drenched in war for a thousand years or better since the dawn of time, and I'm going to go pick on Asia first. All right, I'm going to pick on Asia first, then I'm going to pick on Africa, and then I'm going to pick on America. All right, so I'm going to pick on Asia first because they are notably the majority of the planet. All right, and I say that because when you get to Asia, and this will include Native Americans in this picking. Alright? Native Americans became nomads and they wandered until they got to America. So that takes care of them. But even those people who probably started off as one big tribe got angry and they all divided. They splintered off into their own little tribes, and that's why all the tribes have different cultural diversity and things that you won't understand without going into a tribal tribune and asking what's the difference between Apache and Cheyenne? What's the difference between Seminole and Cherokee? What's the difference between Iroquois and Cherokee? Well, here's the newsflash for you. Iroquois is apparently Cherokee. I found that out reluctantly, as I was reading one of these books that I have here, and apparently Cherokee is a branch of Iroquois, or Iroquois is a branch of Cherokee. I'm confusing that shit, so you go fact check it. But I'm pretty sure it's the other way around. I'm pretty sure Iroquois is the branch of Cherokee. No, I'm pretty sure fuck it. We're gonna say that Cherokee is a branch of the Iroquois, like the book I read said. And then you have the Creek, which is a branch of the Cherokee. But then you have Seminole, Powhatan, uh, God damn it, Shoshone, uh, Tappahannock, Rappahannock, Manhattan Indians. You have a whole fuck ton all the way from Manhattan and Maine all the way down to the tip of Florida. And each tribe is totally different. And you have Squanto, and you have Sacagawea, and you have Pocahontas, who is no doubtedly the most famous Native American female. And then you have Geronimo, who is no doubt the most famous American Indian Apache male. Right? Then you have Sitting Bull. And you have a lot of different legends in Native American culture. And Native Americans, again, splintered out of Asia into America and just dominated the world until Marco Polo stole gunpowder from China and gave it to England, and they replicated it, and then they started mass producing guns, and that kind of changed the tide of the war. Moving away from that, back over to Asia. So, Asia had a war and states era in Japan. Asia had a war and states era in China and Mongolia, which was the sole reason for the wall. Because the Mongolians, mongrels, the people who would also be those known by Native American standards, Mongoloids, would attack China. So the emperors decided we're going to build this big wall. And in building this big wall, they kind of fucked themselves. Because they had it so the enemies up north couldn't get in, but if the enemies from south came, they couldn't get out. So you see why the wall would be a bad idea in America. Because when you got nowhere to go and you're trapped by your own device, it's kind of your fault if you die. Alright? Now this also could be said for Korea. Before it became North and South Korea, it was just one Korea. And that's why there's a North and South Korea. Okay? It's the same thing with Vietnam. There's a North and South Vietnam. Now Laos is a little place to itself. And then you have Indonesia, which was discovered by China, so it was Indochina for a while. And then you have Jakarta, which is Indonesia. And then you have Malaysia. And then you go further down, you have Thailand, and you have Taiwan. And then if you go over this way, you have Japan. And Japan's King Kamehameha became the king of Hawaii as King Kamehameha I, etc., etc. King Kamehameha met Polynesians, who are also Asians, and they settled Hawaii, and then after, I think it was King Kamehameha III, after he either died or before he died, one of the two, they joined America, because you know America can't have any royal lineage. They just talked about that on this impeachment bullshit today. Not that I give a fuck, because I didn't vote for the red-headed step troll in charge. Again, racial tolerance. I have a little bit of racial tolerance for that guy because of that lie about Standing Rock, which no one pointed out at all, but it did say that he didn't tell the truth. And he didn't tell the truth that Standing Rock Native Americans anyway were moving back on over to Asia. So when the dynasties started falling and China became China, uh, initially they started giving problems to Nepal and the Dalai Lama. So a lot of people from Nepal, who are still fighting for freedom from China right now, are against Chinese people. They can't really blame Chinese people for the Chinese government actions, because even the Chinese people in the Chinese government are suffering. If you up the speed with the news right now, Hong Kong and China are going through some shit. And that's the long and short of that. So Nepal isn't the only one suffering at the hands of the Chinese government. But the Chinese government also knows that if they kill the Dalai Lama, that's going to be problems, because you don't want to kill a spiritual man, because that would be like some serious bad shit. And that would make their mojo go really, really bad. Now, when Japan came over to China and occupied China, which as long as I'm breathing, and I don't mean any disrespect to Japan or anyone Japanese, I never understood how the fuck that happened. Okay? Because Japanese people don't outnumber Chinese people. They probably are about even, but back then, China was fucking humongous in the fucking 30s and 40s, and Mao Zedong and all that other stuff. And I'm like, okay, if China's way bigger than Japan, how the fuck did this happen? But I guess they kind of caught people sleeping, and that's kind of how this shit happened. So when you see those Bruce Lee movies, and how Bruce Lee's always fighting the Japanese oppressors, and this is kind of what made the rivalry with China and Japan go everlasting. Now, in the modern world, if you're Chinese or Japanese, you can get along. And I know this because I've had Chinese and Japanese friends, and they got along very well. You know, and I have Korean friends. So, you know, and my Korean friend is the one that taught me that if Japan had a problem with China, they'd have to go through Korea to get to China. And if China had a problem with Japan, they'd have to go through Korea to get to Japan. So Korea was like that thin line. And that's what he was telling me when we were younger, because he's the one that told me that Native Americans are Asian, which totally fucked my life up in a nutshell, because I don't know how the hell I forgot that. But anyway, the whole thing is that a lot of people from China hate people from Japan for some shit that happened that was long ago. It's kind of like the same thing with American black people and slavery and hating white people for some shit that they had no part of, but their ancestors did. And I'm like, okay, well, here's the thing. Even with reparations, it's not going anywhere, because you cannot change history. All right? You can accept it and you can learn from it, or you can get angry and do absolutely nothing but sit here and get mad and cuss at people, because murder is not going to change the fact that slavery happened. And it didn't just happen in America. It happened in Asia. It happened in India. It happened in Africa. And in fact, the thing that when I get to Africa, you're going to understand why I don't like to be called African American. My ass is black. Do not call me African American. You can call me mixed, because I am multicultural. But when I sign my application, I sign black. No. And yes, quite a few times I've scratched through the word African American and write black. Alright? So I will get there. I will get there. When you get to India, India was a whole different clusterfuck, because it was more like royalty, low class, royalty, low class, and anything in between basically was low class. So, you know, they had their issues too, you know. Now, I don't remember India ever occupying places, and if they did, it's new to me, so I'm not going to touch that with a stick, which is why this is going to be really, really short, because India and Africa and China will always battle over where Kung Fu came from. Okay? Now, if you go to Egypt hieroglyphics, because they have proven that Africans were the first men, then Kung Fu came from Egypt. If you listen to Buddha, who was an Indian who went to Japan and taught everyone Buddhism, then you would say that Kung Fu came from India. And if you ask anybody who's Chinese, they'll tell you that Kung Fu came from China. And then there was the Shaolin. Well, here's the thing. Kung Fu is a system of fighting that involves hands and feet. And before it had a name, I think everybody knew it, and they just didn't want everyone to know it. Which is why when it got to America, they came up with these fucking belt systems for karate and kung fu and stuff like that. And a belt is only as good as to hold up your pants for a real fighter. Okay, so we're going to move on to Africa now. And now I'm going to piss off a bunch of black people and a bunch of Africans as well. So let me apologize to that first, because this is something that needs to be said. Alright. They don't teach you this in school because school teaches you 3% of racism when they're teaching you Black History Month. They don't teach you how the kings and chiefs of the big tribes of Africa sold out the little tribes and took their land. And if you could wipe out the tribes, but you didn't want to kill your fellow Africans, then you sold them into slavery to the Europeans, which is exactly what happened. You know? And people don't get that part of Black history. They only get the part that you see in Shaka Zulu and in Roots. And that's what you get. You get to see LeVar Burton as Kunta Kinte running through the sands in Africa and getting caught and never going back home. And then you see James Evans from Good Time get his foot chopped off as Kunta's life continues on until he dies, and then his daughter's life continue on, and then Chicken George, etc., etc. But what they leave off and what they don't tell kids in school these days, and you're not allowed to teach it if you're a teacher because we have a specific curriculum that you must follow, which is why I can only be a gym teacher. And the curriculum does not allow you to tell young black kids that some of your own cousins and ancestors sold your ass into slavery. To preserve themselves, they got rid of you. And they were like probably lower on the totem pole, and they decided to devise a plan that, you know, well, I got this cousin. If they leave, I inherit their land. If I inherit their land, I can sell their land and move deeper in with the bigger tribes, and I can have more wealth by getting in that. And that's basically the shit that you're not allowed to learn while you're in school, from grade school to high school. You will learn this shit if you go to college, and you should kind of go to college because you can get a better education from college than you can get from me. But when I learned that shit, I learned it before I got to college because somebody who was teaching stuff, and by the way, Kwanzaa is not from Africa, just to get that out there. So I got to talking to somebody who was like an African studies something when I was working at a college. It's like, you know that Africans were sold into slavery by other Africans, and that shit was like a slap in the face and a kick in the nuts at the same time. It's like, pow, boom. And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, did you not know that? And I was like, no, I didn't. And this guy wasn't an American. So that kind of really fucked me up there. And I was like, wow. So when you deal with that, and then I'm going to end the video by bringing it over to America now. So you have black people, white people, Asian people, Native Americans, all have been slaves. Chinese are made to work the railroads, Native Americans are made to work the railroads, then the post office comes up. But before all of that, they're all slaves. And blacks were sold into slavery by other blacks. And I think there was like maybe one or two incidences where a tribal chief accidentally got his son sold and had to do something to get him back. I'm not going to swear that. It was told to me, so you just go with it. So when I was in high school, I did not hate Africans, but I'm never coming to Africa. Not without a fuck ton of security. So I'm playing baseball with an exchange student whose hair is as curly as mine. And he's looking at me and he's saying something funny to me. And I was like, dude, do you have a problem with me? He's like, yeah, I kind of do. You can never survive in Africa. And I'm sitting to myself thinking, where did this come from? I was like, dude, what is your problem? He said, I don't like half-breeds. And I'm thinking to myself, what? I mean, he didn't know me from Adam and Eve, and we were only in that one class, which was in the gym class with Miss Madolo. And I was like, what do you mean you don't like half-breeds? You don't even know me, dude. I don't like half-breeds. And you can never survive in Africa. I was like, hold on. Is that a threat? He's like, no, it's not a threat. I was like, oh, because, you know, if it was a threat, you should know, big guy. I know Kung Fu, and I will fuck you up. And he's like, is that a threat? I said, you take it any way you want, big guy. You don't like half-breeds, so how am I supposed to take it? I said, well, you will never survive in Africa because as soon as they see you step off the plane, they will shoot your ass because you're mixed. I was like, yeah, I'm mixed. What's your point? He's like, you're not just black. I was like, no shit. I said, I have white and Native American in me. He's like, yeah, we don't like half-breeds in Africa. And you won't survive Africa. I said, well, here's the thing. You know, I have no intention of going to Africa. And I don't want to go on safaris because tigers, lions, and all those other things could probably fuck me up. I don't like dealing with bears. So there's no way in hell I want to go deal with a gorilla because it has opposable thumbs. And after that guy talked to me like maybe 4 or 5 times in class after that. Now, the other African exchange student, whose name I will leave out, he was like, yeah, that's a true statement. You probably wouldn't survive in Africa. So then I went a few years later, and I was working out of college, and I had some African friends. Yoko and Tubu, they were great guys. They were like, you know, for the sake of argument, you probably don't want to go to Africa. And I keep saying, why do you guys not like half-breeds in Africa? And no one would tell me. No one. And then there was 2 other African exchange students who worked at the DML. And I will leave their ungrateful ass names out. Because one was a girl, one was a guy. And they more or less, they didn't like me because I was mixed, but they just hated black people. And I'm like, you hate black people, but you're at a university full of black people, and you're on a government scholarship from America. It's like, well, we just don't like black people. And I'm going to end it right there. That kind of made me have a sour taste in my mouth for some Africans for a while. But after I got to know a couple of other Africans, I was like, okay, well, I can't hate all Africans because these assholes are just assholes. And there's assholes in every place, no matter what your ethnicity or your gender is. Because the African girl, and there's a reason why I'm getting closer, because I'm about to end the video, but the African girl, she specifically, with her dreadlocks, looked me dead in the face and told me the only reason I'm helping you is because I like Bruce. And Bruce wants us to help you because it's our job to help you. But if Bruce was not here, we wouldn't give you the time of day because we don't work with black people. And we definitely, above all else, we don't work with half-breeds. And had I been a girl, I say this lovingly, had I been a girl for 5 minutes, that would have been 4 minutes longer than I needed to beat her ass. But because I'm not a girl, and I don't believe that men should ever hit women, I really didn't know how to process that outside of, okay, well, when I talk to Bruce, I will make sure that you don't have to help me anymore. And I went the next day, and she wasn't there. And I didn't report her to her manager. I should have. Probably would have got the damn girl fired. But I don't really like doing things like that because no one wants to get fired. So I told Bruce, I said, dude, what is wrong with this chick, yo? I mean, I didn't do nothing to her. I mean, outside of getting help for the film, I didn't do anything to her. Oh, no, it's not you. They hate black people. I was like, oh, so you know about the guy too? It's like, yeah, those 2 specifically, they hate American black people. And after that, I learned a whole lot about racial tolerance. I'm James Williams Jr. Come for having number 2. Be seeing you.